Why did Aokiji team up with Blackbeard? What are his endgame goals? Does he still have any connections to the Marines? What does Nico Robin have to do with his actions? In this video, I dive deep into all these questions and completely analyze all the possibilities to Kuzan's character. I reread every chapter that Aokiji was in to figure out his secrets, and I think I may have found really interesting stuff. I'll discuss things like his connections to Sword, why he'll betray Blackbeard in the end, and what his endgame plan is to change the corrupt world that he lives in. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell turned on if you love One Piece, and now let's get into it. Back in Enies Lobby, we find out that Aokiji was one of the Marines who was sent out to do a buster call on Ohara. This is one of the most important backstories for the whole world of One Piece, and it's also the spark that drove Aokiji to becoming what he is today. This is what sparked his ultimate conflict and rivalry with Akainu, as we see him get upset when Akainu blows up the ship of innocent civilians. For some reason, after Akainu does this, Kuzan seems to realize that what the Marines are doing is not okay. Before this, we see him arguing with Saul over if what the Marines is doing to Ohara is right or not. Saul tells him that it's not right and that Aokiji should know that this incident is just being used as an example. Kuzan replies by saying that buster calling Ohara is fine since the archaeologist did break the law. I feel like this isn't something that he would say today, and it sounds more like something that Akainu would say. We then see Kuzan saying how justice changes shape depending on someone's standpoint, which is why he won't criticize Saul's idea of justice. I find this to be somewhat ignorant, since if he believes this, then why wouldn't he at least look at Saul's side of things or try to understand his former friend? This quote is also hypocritical, since after Akainu blows up the ship, Kuzan immediately criticizes Akainu for his absolute justice. In this moment, you have three men connected to the Marines with different justices all going at it in the same place. Saul's justice seems to be revolved around knowing the truth and doing the thing that he feels is right. Kuzan's justice at the time was burning justice, which was him being a sheep or a mindless slave for the world government. And then last but definitely not least, Akainu has absolute justice, which to him is destroying evil at its very roots. Over time, all three of these justices that Kuzan lived through changed him to be the man he is today. He changed to be more like Saul, and immediately after Saul's death, we see Aokiji carrying his will. He saves Robin by first giving her a boat and a pathway to the next island, and after this, he saves her again by freezing the rudder on the Navy ship that was trying to go after her. We later see him talking to Robin at Water 7 after the whole Enies Lobby incident. I feel like this is one of the most underlooked and underrated scenes, since it may tell us what Kuzan will do with the Blackbeard pirates. He first tells her how he was the one who set up the whole CP9 situation. He didn't want her to stay as a ticking time bomb for the world government, so he had her get executed. Kuzan also asks Robin why she didn't run away from the Marines this time, as if he's concerned for her safety. He knows that if she really wanted to escape from CP9, she could have, but as we know now, the whole situation isn't just as simple as that. She wasn't gonna allow the Straw Hats turning to end, so she allowed herself to be sacrificed. I feel like Aokiji wasn't expecting this and was surprised at the fact that Robin even allowed herself to go with CP9. After this, Kuzan explains to her that Saul was a close friend of his, and that ever since the Ohara incident, he's carried on his will to help Robin survive. He even tells her that it's his duty to follow her and make sure she doesn't waste her life. This shows his true intentions and how no matter what, he'll always be there for Robin. In my opinion, this proves that when the Straw Hats fight the Blackbeard pirates, he will have already left the Blackbeard alliance, or he'll leave them during the fight. There's no way Kuzan would allow Robin to get captured by Blackbeard, or let alone allow her to risk her life while fighting them. I'll expand more on this later in the video when I get to Blackbeard, but before this, I need to explain the Garp, Aokiji, and Sword connection. Another thing I think his appearance in Water 7 could show is that he and Garp are a lot closer than we think. The same day of the party at Water 7, Garp and his Marines show up earlier in the daytime. We know that at least a few of these Marines on Garp's crew ended up becoming a part of the secret special force named Sword. With Helmeppo and Kobe being members, one could only assume that Garp was the link to them becoming a part of Sword. I don't see who else could have put them in such a secretive force, since the two are very young and new members of the Marines. Although Kobe is at least a Marine captain in the post-time skip, I don't know what Helmeppo's rank is and how much he can be trusted. Garp is the one that took them in when they were still only chore boys and helped them transform into the young men they are today. Plus, I can just see Garp being an important member of Sword, since it seems that Sword is just the opposite of CP0. In case you don't know, CP0 is called Cypherpole Aegis, and the word Aegis means shield in ancient Greek. It seems pretty clear that Sword was created to completely oppose shield, and this would ultimately mean that Sword mainly opposes the Celestial celestial dragons since S.H.I.E.L.D. was created to work directly under the world nobles. We know how Garp feels towards the celestial dragons, and him being a D member would only make sense for him to be a part of Sword. Honestly, I'd be more surprised if he wasn't in Sword than if he was. So now, what does this all have to do with Aokiji? Well, I believe that Aokiji and Garp may have had a secret meeting discussing Sword while the both of them went to Water 7. Is it really a coincidence that two of the strongest marine members who completely oppose the celestial dragons were on the same island at the same time? I definitely don't think so. We also know that these two are already pretty close since Aokiji says that he owed Garp a debt a long time ago. The debt must have been something pretty big for him to even bring it back up to Luffy. This shows that he has close ties with Garp and that he gets along with him. We also see Kuzan casually hop on Garp's ship as everyone is leaving. He tells Garp that Akainu's mad at him for allowing Luffy to leave. It's pretty funny that he says this since he himself is literally doing nothing about the situation and also allowed the Straw Hats to escape on multiple occasions. According to the One Piece wiki, Kuzan also admires Garp for consistently refusing promotions. We all know why Garp refuses these promotions, and it's because he doesn't want to work directly under the celestial dragons. If Aokiji admires him for this, then doesn't this show his true feelings on the world government? If he respects someone's decision on being a marine that doesn't like the world nobles, then maybe he's the same way. I mean, Sengoku, who's Garp's friend, wanted Aokiji to become the next fleet admiral, but high-ranked government members pushed for Akainu instead. This may show that the higher-ups in the world government, possibly the 5 elders, wanted Akainu over Aokiji for certain reasons. One of these reasons is the fact that Akainu will be a dog for them and will go to the greatest lengths to serve justice under the Marines. He's willing to kill or destroy anything as long as in his eyes it's doing something to stop the evils of piracy. This fits with the ideals of the highest members of the Marines since we know that they're willing to blow up whole islands just to stop their secrets from getting exposed. I believe that they not only favored Akainu for this reason, but also for the fact that they may have been afraid of Aokiji. Aokiji would serve out his own justice and not what the world nobles want. If he is in Sword or at least has ties to them, then he probably would have tried to completely change the world government for the better. As Fleet Admiral, he would have never allowed something such as the Ohara incident to happen again. Even if it did happen, it would have been commanded by the world nobles. There probably would have been a complete division within the whole government if he was Fleet Admiral, and with Sakazuki, the 5 elders are still able to do exactly what they want. I mean, even Akainu pressed them once about not knowing about the Doflamingo warlord situation since they didn't even tell him the truth. They aren't even willing to tell Fleet Admirals their true plans, and if something like this happened to Aokiji, I could only imagine how he would react. With Aokiji as Fleet, many of the Marines would have followed his orders, ways, ideals, philosophies, and ultimately his justice. He's very close with some of the most honorable and respected Marines, being Sengoku, Garp, and also Smoker. He was also very popular with the troops of all ranks and got support from all his subordinates when the choice for Fleet Admiral came. What if another reason the higher ups feared Aokiji is because of the will of D? Could it be possible that Aokiji is one of those with the middle initial of D, destined for a certain fate? I think there's a chance that he has it since his destiny may have led him to leave the Marines and join Blackbeard. He was also close friends with Saul and ended up following his steps. Even if he doesn't have the will of D, he's still carrying on the will of someone with it, so in a way, he still represents it. It's also very strange that he would team up with the Blackbeard pirates and not someone else like the Revolutionaries or even the Straw Hats. I wonder why he chose Blackbeard over everyone. There's been a theory going around lately that Blackbeard was a former member of Ohara. The reason for this is because in an SBS, Oda said that if Blackbeard had a job in the real world, he would be an archaeologist. We also know that he studies history and believes that all the legends like the City of Gold and the One Piece are real. The timeline also fits since the Ohara incident occurred around 25 years ago and Blackbeard is 40 years old. So with knowing all this, I feel like Aokiji joined him because he wants to learn more of the true history and help carry on the legacy of Ohara. He may even be protecting Robin in a way, since I would think that Blackbeard would go after her in the same way that he went after Pudding in order to read the poneglyphs. Aokiji would never allow someone like Blackbeard to take Robin, and he has his trust in Luffy to protect her. So now I definitely do believe that Aokiji is with Blackbeard to be able to achieve his goals, but I also feel like there's a chance he could still be working with certain Marines like Garp. I feel like he could be an undercover detective that will betray the Blackbeard pirates in the long run. The first time we find out that he's working with the Blackbeard pirates, Berg says that he can't trust Aokiji. This could possibly foreshadow something with Aokiji betraying them. Another reason I think that there's a chance that Aokiji could be an undercover detective is because of who his character is based off of. Kuzan is based on the Japanese actor Yusaka Matsuda. Oda based Aokiji's hair and clothing style off of him and even made his birthday the same as Matsuda's. This actor was best known for starring in the TV series Detective Story. His role was playing Private Eye Shunsaku Kudo, who is a private detective. If Aokiji is based off Matsuda, or even more so, the role of Kudo, then maybe he's secretly an undercover detective working for Sword and finding out what he needs to find out while seeming like a member of the Blackbeard crew. I also feel like he's the one guy who could actually pull off such a job, since there aren't many men in the world that could fight Blackbeard one-on-one. I expect both Kuzan and Akainu to be in the top tier of strength, being up there with the strongest Yonko. We've seen undercover detective jobs happen many times before when people associated with the Marines end up becoming pirates but are secretly spying on certain organizations, so Kuzan being another one of them would just make sense. For example, in Law's backstory, we see Corazon secretly spying on Doflamingo and trying to get him captured. The only guy who really knew about this mission seemed to be Sengoku, since they couldn't let anyone find out or else the mission would have been at stake. Another time we see this happen is with Drake. Drake is still working with Sword and he was on an undercover mission looking into the Beast Pirates. Back when Kuzan and Doflamingo met, Dofi states that Aokiji is no simple wanderer and that only a man who's made up his mind about something can make a face like that. This is apparently the face or feeling that Aokiji gave off after Dofi asked him where he stands in the world. This shows that whatever he's currently doing with Blackbeard must be a part of his ultimate plan or endgame goal. We also see him tell Smoker that you don't have to be affiliated with the Navy to accomplish things in the world, and that there's some things you can only see when you remain independent. This shows that he has now seen the world from yet another perspective. He's somewhat giving me Dragon vibes, as they both seem to be some of the most mysterious people that are focused on finding out some of the biggest mysteries and truths to the world. Another interesting thing Aokiji tells Smoker is to inform Sakazuki on Doflamingo and to have the Admirals mobilized. It seems like this went through, and it seems like even Akainu listened to Aokiji, since Fujitora ended up going to Dressrosa. The most important thing in this conversation is when Smoker asks how Kuzan knew that he was at Punk Hazard and about to be attacked. Aokiji states that the reason for this is because it was fate that brought him there. Smoker replies to this by asking multiple times how he actually knew that he was there, because fate is just some BS claim. Aokiji of course never answers the questions, which means that Oda is waiting to reveal the real reason he knew. What if someone in Sword told him where Smoker was and that he was in trouble? I would think this is more likely than someone in the Blackbeard crew telling him, since it doesn't really make much sense for any Blackbeard pirate to want to save a Marine. It makes sense that Smoker and Aokiji are both a part of Sword, since we also see that Tashigi takes the kids from Punk Hazard to a Navy facility that Sword runs. I don't know if she would know about the whole operation, but I wouldn't be surprised if Smoker knew something about it or was even involved in it. If Smoker is involved in Sword, then maybe when Aokiji saved him, he was just helping out a brother from the same secret force. We also know that the two are pretty close, since in the pre-time skip, Smoker decides to go to Aokiji specifically for his transfer in the Marines. Maybe when he saw him at Punk Hazard, he didn't know if Aokiji left Sword or not ever since he left the Marines. As I said before, Aokiji might be on a secret mission as a detective spying on Blackbeard and other pirates. If this were even somewhat true, nobody could know about it except maybe the leader of Sword. It's just like how no one could know about Corazon's mission because it would have made it too risky. If Kuzan does have ties to Sword, then we should find out about it soon, since the Blackbeard pirates have Kobe and are also currently fighting Law, who many believe could have ties with them as well. I would love to see an interaction with Kobe and Aokiji that at least glimpses at this idea. I really wonder if he'll go as far to help Kobe escape. Kobe is also a very new member of the Marines, so I don't know how well Kuzan knows him yet, but I still think that if he's in Sword, then he should at least know of Kobe's existence. Plus, I don't really know how anyone in Sword that we've seen so far could rescue Kobe. None of them seem to be too powerful right now compared to Blackbeard and his crew. Aokiji seems like the one guy who could help Kobe, and if this doesn't happen, then I think the next option would have to either be the Straw Hats or the Navy, bringing a strong enough fleet to combat Blackbeard. Now, whatever Aokiji's true plan is, I feel like his presence will be a key to taking down the current world government. There will be guys like Luffy and Blackbeard who will physically barge their way in to destroy the corruption of the world government, but then there's guys like Dragon and Aokiji who will do it politically. Although Dragon and Aokiji most likely have the strength as Blackbeard and Luffy, they know that punching your way through things isn't the smartest way to go about things if you want to change the perspective of the whole world. The both of those, with other guys like Garp and Smoker, could take down the current government and reshape or transform it into being something that isn't corrupt by the ideals of the Celestial Dragons. With Luffy making alliances with many of the most important countries and nations in the world, many will follow him and will fight with the people on his side. Whitebeard did say in his last words that the world will be turned upside down one day, and that would mean that the world government itself will also be flipped. Luffy obviously plays the most important role in all of this since he is Joyboy, but Aokiji will also play a major factor in creating a government that serves true justice, not just whatever the higher ups think is right. Hopefully we get a little rematch with him and Sakazuki, because I seriously want to see those those two go at it with all they've got. It would honestly be a shame if we never saw those two fight in either a current timeline or in a flashback to the 10-day battle at Punk Hazard. A One Piece canon movie of that after Oda finishes the story is definitely something I need to happen. Anyways, this pretty much wraps up all my thoughts on Aokiji, and please let me know any of your thoughts down in the comments. Also, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video, and click on one of these two videos right here if you're in the mood for more One Piece content.